You kind of look like this is like a war video because you're like look like you're in like army fatigues and like
No, I don't.
This is like a ransom video or something. Yeah, you do. You totally do.
Look what it does. It makes my face. Look at how it makes part of my face fuzzy. Doesn't that look weird? Look how weird that looks.
I don't know.
Look at like that is the weirdest. This thing is weird.
What's
what happened?
I know.
But
are you gonna do ayahuasca in Peru?
No.
Well, what are you doing in Peru?
I told you who I'm going with.
Who?
Like this, well, the people that put it on, there's the channeler.
Oh no.
Channeler and her husband.
Wait, who are you going with?
I'm just fucking around with my stuff here. You need to set up where you can mess around with your lights and stuff like that.
Well, my lighting's fine. I am freaking glowing. You, on the other hand, look like this is some sort of hostage video.
This is about addiction.
You're gonna hold up a sign.
Ryan, let's go. Let's talk about addiction. Okay. Sorry, I'm just messing around here. No,
I mean, do you have like a pink or pastel shirt you could put on just to lighten the mood a little bit?
What are you talking about? It's just a black. If I take it off, just a black
then
shirt.
you're gonna blend in.
Yeah. Plus, it's cold.
Keep on your army fatigues. I don't care. I'm wearing a army green shirt too. Just hold up a sign at the end that says like, save me. Someone help me. Save me. So to complete our hostage video.
If you see this video, save me. So I'm just trying to get it so it doesn't reflect in my eyes.
I can use it for when something happens to you in Peru. How long are you going to be there? 2 weeks?
Well, if I get there, so 2 weeks in Peru. It's a bit of a mystical journey. Minus the ayahuasca. That's not happening. But I think I told you, there's a couple that I met handful of years back, and it's a longer story, but I met these people and the wife, so it's Marcus and Sheila, the married couple, and the wife is a channeler.
Okay.
So, and they go on group trips like once or twice a year, probably. I think last time they went to Egypt, and then this time they're going to Peru, and I just figured I'd go. So it's not like, what do we do? What are they? I don't know. I'll have to let you know, but we go all over these sites and check out these mystical sites. It's got a spiritual twist to it all. So it's not like tourism in the classic sense. I mean, we're going to places, but it's with a different mindset, I guess.
What does a channeler do? I don't know what that means.
Oh man, that's a whole nother podcast,
Okay.
We're not going to get to it
because that's not what we're talking about. Has she ever done like some channeling with you? Obviously
not with me. She's done.
Oh, she hasn't.
So a channel, what a channel is, okay, believe it or not, but what a channel is essentially is when a person steps aside to let another like collective, like consciousness kind of channel through them and communicate. So to give you messages to, it's usually for like information.
Well, don't you channel?
No, it's not dead people.
Person?
No. First of all, there's no such thing as death. Okay. We'll get that. Let's get that out of the way.
Let's get that clear.
Okay. It's just transition. All right. So I think a lot of channelers channel beings that have never been human. Some have been human, some haven't. That again, this is like a whole. People are gonna be like, "What the hell am I listening to?"
So, has she ever done any kind of like session with you? Is my question.
Not privately. I guess I could have if I wanted to, but I didn't.
What would be the benefit of sitting down with her? Is my question then.
Well, when you're not talking to her in the channel, you're talking to somebody else. You ever heard of Seth Speaks? You ever heard of that book?
No.
You ever heard of Dolores Cannon?
No.
You ever heard of you probably never heard of Bashar. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So you're sitting down and they're channeling so that they can give you sort of this more cosmic information, more, I guess. Okay. You got to do a whole thing about it.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer it without going
we can talk about it later.
Deep into it. Yeah.
We can talk about it another time.
Yeah.
So I have kind of a process to take us through this conversation. We're going to talk about addiction and drinking. Ryan and I both, when we dated, if you listen to our last podcast, we dated, and I said that I thought we drank a lot when we dated. Both of us now, I think, are at a place where we don't drink. So we're going to kind of talk about that. And I'll get into all of that. But what is it that you loved about drinking?
Friend the other day about this, where it's like, it's no different than people that love eating cake. Like, some people have to have cake. Some people have to be like, they have to watch like a certain show, a certain, like, escapism, you know, just like sort of like distractions that there, you know, there's a chemical element to it. But so when people talk about drinking, I'm like, I just don't see it any differently than people that can't stop eating pizza, or that have to, like, you know,
Sure.
collect shiny rocks. I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, it's something to distract you, to sort of contain, like, to alleviate anxiety, to take you, you know, get you to forget your cares for a while. It's just a version of that. And so I liked it. I liked it because it took away the parts of me that were the parts that made me anxious. Let's say
Mhm.
that part of
It
me
takes
wasn't
away
there, right?
anxiety.
I called it night guy. It was night guy. Night guy would come out.
Mhm.
I'm
And
day guy. That's night
you
guy.
were
You should be interviewing night guy.
you were big on not drinking until like 5. I remember that about you. Like, you didn't drink during the day. That was never a thing.
Well, it wasn't like a rule, but it just didn't make sense. Because for me, if I was going to start drinking, like I think I said, I'm all brakes or all gas, no brakes, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, it's not a couple of drinks. It's like enough to finish you off for the day.
Right.
So you, before, yeah, that's sort of an end of day, sort of like, we're done. The day's over. Put a nail in the coffin. You're done.
Right.
And yeah.
So, backing up, when was your first drink? When did you start drinking?
Well, no, so I want to, here's something that's really interesting, I think, is why did the idea of drinking even come into my mind? Okay. So it's like,
Mhm.
not when did I have my first, it's when did I even consider that? And
Okay.
why did I consider that? And I remember, we were just talking about football. I remember when I was a kid, when I was little, you know, I want to say 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe, you know, around that age. And I remember Sundays during football season, I didn't even care about the Broncos or football at the time. All I remember was Sundays, laughing. Parents got together with friends. We went somewhere, they came to us, whatever. Friends laughing, yelling, celebrating, you know, all high emotions, low emotions. And I just remember, like, the smell of beer. But so in my, I think what I realized at one point was, I was constantly chasing that, because I remember being like, Sundays are so much more fun than Mondays.
Mhm.
And it was like, the rest of the week is so, like, you gotta go to school, gotta do business, do da, da, da. And then Sunday's like, all right, everyone's having fun now. And so, you know, I always thought, like, why can't I just live in this all the time?
Mhm.
Why does there have to be moderation? Why does there have to be, there's a time and a place? Why does there have to be, you know, well, that's you can't do that all the time. It's like, well, why not? I never understood that. I was like, well, why can't I feel like this all the time? This is fun. This is a great way to feel. So I remember, I don't think I realized that for a long, long time, because I realized I was chasing after that for my adult life. It was like, I just wanted to feel like that every day, especially on the days where, it's just like, things are a drag, and you're just like, man,
Right.
I gotta get away for a second. Right. And it just became a daily thing. Right. So the first time, though, but so having said that, the way I started, I think, was was a completely different reason. I remember specifically, because I was pretty straight edge growing up, right? I was like that kid that didn't mess around with anything. I didn't touch nothing. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything. And then I got to probably my end of high school, and I had this high school girlfriend that I was way too emotionally
Oh,
invested in,
I
right?
remember. We talked
And
about her.
yeah, and so what happened was, I remember there was a day, and I was having a hard time with something. It was, and it probably, in hindsight, it's probably something so stupid, but I was very, like, upset about something, and I was feeling down, and my whole family happened to be gone that afternoon. Right. And I had the idea. I said, well, why don't I take out a couple bottles out of the liquor cabinet and take some shots? Cause I never had them. Like, I got nothing else to do. That seems like a good idea. And I feel like shit. And maybe this is something that, you know, whatever the thinking was. And I remember grabbing that bottle. It was like shitty tequila, shitty scotch. I don't even know what it was, but And I just started pouring some shots, and I took like 3 or 4 of them. And I remember just sitting there being like, oh, this is interesting. This is different, and that was probably my first time. Like it wasn't fun with friends. It wasn't like hanging out, having beers, laughing, like, oh, goofing around with friends. It was like, I feel very sad. And suddenly I have this idea that maybe this alcohol will do something about it.
And whatever state you were in with that girlfriend, that sadness, it at least took you out of that. I mean, I don't know if you like got up and danced around the living room, but it changed your state.
No, I still felt like shit though.
Right. You still maybe felt like shit, but at least it changed your state. So it probably like gave you the wrong kind of reinforcement. Like it taught you something about alcohol that was like, oh, this at least took me out of where I was before that I didn't want to be. And so you're like, this can be a quick fix,
Mm-hmm.
I was similar. I didn't drink until I got to college. So then I was that girl that did not know how to drink. And I think I never really learned, basically. But like in high school, I was kind of like the girl that did whatever my parents told me to do. I kind of still am. It's really annoying. But like they told me not to drink, so I didn't drink. And then when I got to college, it was like, well, no one was there to tell me to do anything. And I did not know how to drink, and I drank too much, and just I was not good with alcohol at all. It was bad. So how did it progress to being something that you felt like this is a problem? Like in college, what was your relationship with alcohol?
No, it was from that day. It was like
that day, it was a problem.
Oh, it was a problem. Oh yeah. I should.
So the next day you went into your parents' liquor cabinet and started drinking.
No, not the next day, but it became something that was on my radar, and I was aware I could use. And I think honestly, like I remember, I remember I went to college and I made the choice to stay in the non-party, no drinking dorm, not because I didn't want to drink or anything. It's because I was like, I don't want the party. I don't want to live in the party. It was like, even though I was like, I want to be able to come and go from it. So I made that. It was a stupid decision, and it just made things worse, and so.
Why would it make things worse? That seems like a smart decision.
No, because what it did that year, because I had gone to college, I still was kind of like tied up with my high school girlfriend, even at college. And how that's never a good idea. So my social life was awful because I wasn't hanging out with people. Any chance I got, I would try to go back home, so I just put myself in an environment where I was not really making, establishing relationships, having fun. And it just was not, so, but it started to like become a daily thing eventually. And like, after that, it was always there, always.
So about in college, it started to become like a daily thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then was it other things, or do you not want to talk about that? Was it?
Well, I'll talk about whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
What other things?
Did it progress into like cocaine when you were partying and things like that? Never.
No, I was too broke to have hookers and cocaine. I couldn't do that. But like,
I don't want to hear about hookers.
Well, if you're rich, you could do whatever you want,
jet
skis and hookers and stuff like that.
But you were never into anything but alcohol. Alcohol was your drug of choice.
That was it.
It was the martini it was the martinis.
No, back then I would drink like jugs of Colorado wine because it was
right.
Because I could buy a ton of it for a little bit of money. I used to go in Montana where I went to school. They would have these little casinos that you could go and if you were gambling, they would give you free beer, and it was like video poker and shit like that. And so I decided, I was so broke back then, I would go play, sit at the casino for a little bit, milk a quarter, because you could put a quarter in a video poker machine and stay there for a half hour, drink a couple beers, and then go to wherever, But and the funny thing is no one else in my family has that issue. Right. I think there are people outside of my immediate family that I don't know, but I might've heard stories about that maybe did, but it's not my sister's brother, for example, but it's not like my dad or mom never drank. Right. So I don't really know where that came from.
Yeah.
And my brother and sister don't do it the same way, for sure. My brother does it. My sister, they don't do it.
They have a different relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when was the first time that you looked at yourself and were like, maybe that I should tone this down a little bit?
Well, I think you always know it,
You
you
always
know?
know.
I think you always know. It's like that stupid contrarian part of me was like, "Wait, Ryan, it's Monday. You can't go out Mondays." Like, "Yeah, I can. Watch me." You know? And
Mhm.
it was that I got a kick out of that because I was always like, everyone says you can't do things. I'm like, "Look, I'm doing it every day. Look what I do." You know? It's stupid, but I don't I think I always knew. I was aware that this is not normal and it's not necessarily sustainable, but it doesn't matter because you like it too much.
Well, you left college and you went to LA, right?
Mhm.
And you were in an entertainment environment. So, like, I mean, anybody can find a reason. You can be in finance and it's too much. You can be in the restaurant industry and it's too much. But I think entertainment probably breeds that of people, like, finding a reason to go out every night, don't you think? Do you think it contributed or what? Or not?
No, not really. I don't think it would have changed anything for me.
Mhm.
The I know, like, when you're doing video shoots and, like, you see when you're on a set and we're working, I mean, it's like 12 hours, 14 hours, and, like,
Right.
you get beat up, you physically beat up, and so nothing makes you feel better than booze, right? But it wasn't because of that. That would it wouldn't have if I was an accountant, I probably would have done the same exact thing, maybe even
Right.
more,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? But, it
So back to or you say whatever you were gonna say. I was
oh,
gonna
I don't
say back
remember, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say back to, like, when was the first time you were like, "Okay, so I'm gonna try to step it back to 3 days a week or just on the weekend," or, like, did you was there multiple was it when was the first time you tried to do that
Well,
maybe?
it's funny, like, I'm always amazed. I am actually amazed at people who are like, "Oh, I just drink on the weekend." I'm like, "How the hell do you do that?" Like, I couldn't do that. It's either all or nothing for me. Either I drink every day or I don't drink at all.
Mhm.
Because because it's just not there. Like, if I drink, "Yeah, Saturday, we had a great time." Well, Sunday, what do you do? "Well, I kinda wanna have a great time again." What Monday, what do you
Mhm.
wanna do? "Well, kinda wanna have a great time again." You know? I don't wanna go home and sit and gotta rest, gotta be ready. Like, that was like the some people have Sunday scaries. I would have the non-drinking scaries. I'm like, I don't wanna live a life of no booze because that's so, like, boring to me. And
Right.
like, I miss that part of me is missing. That there was never any consideration for that because it was impossible.
Did you get hangovers?
No, not really.
No.
I got a good metabolism. Maybe that's part of the like I didn't I mean, I drank Colorado in college, which I'm surprised I'm still alive from that, but
Yeah.
that's not,
Well,
but I don't yeah.
I got horrible hangovers, which I think is, like, it's almost what's the word? Disingenuous, I think, for me to be like, "Well, I don't drink anymore," because it's like, I think if anybody felt, like, physically poisoned how I did after alcohol, you would quit drinking. It's actually a wonder that I drank as long as I did, because I felt so bad after I drank. I shouldn't have even drank as many years as I did. And I would drink, like, a ton when we went out and maybe the next night and whatever, and then I wouldn't drink all week, and I might not drink for the next week either. And then something else
Wow.
would come up, and I'd be like, that sounds so fun. I was never like drink every night kind of person or like go buy a six pack by myself or anything. It was like, this sounds so fun.
Yeah, yeah.
The social interaction I can't pass up. It is so fun to sit there with like, a cocktail and like bullshit for hours. Like I think there's nothing more fun than that. I hate to say that, like just getting cocktails and talking and talking. Like I love doing that. Or sitting on the couch with your girlfriends and having wine and talking. I love doing
Mhm.
that. It's just that it made me so physically ill. And then some nights I'd have one too many and like I would have the blackout, which I know some people don't have, and I wouldn't even know what happened. And I'm not saying anything
That's
crazy
night guy.
happened. Yeah, it's night guy. But the next day, that's such a terrible feeling to be like, I can't fill in that blank. And I think as a woman, it's really scary. If you can't fill in a blank, you're like, I have no idea. Like there's a whole safety issue involved,
Well, you gotta be safe, you know?
You
I
gotta be
I am
safe.
like, it's just like Breaking Bad. I am the danger.
I am the
I am the
danger.
danger. That's what I once I realized I was the danger, everything it actually made me feel better. I was like, "Oh, I am the danger." Okay.
You're like, well, I
But
have control over that.
no, but see, I don't understand the hangover thing other than people that there are people who I'm like, "Well, you get a hangover because you drink crappy liquor. You drink sugary liquor or you drink mixed drinks or you mix them oh yeah, of course you can get a hangover." You gotta be like I was a professional, okay? I was like very
Well,
skilled and I would drink. I would pick and choose specifically what I was going to have so that I didn't have to worry about that stuff.
Have you listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast on alcohol?
No.
You would love it. I'm going to link it, and I'm going to link it in the show notes, and I'm going to send it to you directly. Okay. You would love it. But he goes into all the stuff that you kind of mentioned anyway. It's like there's something called like alcohol dehydrogenate. I'm going to say it wrong, that we all have in our body and we naturally produce. And clearly I produce less of it. You produce a lot more of it. But what it does is it like converts alcohol from poison, which it is. Like every piece of every drop of alcohol is poison. You are poisoning yourself every time you take a drink. And there's something in our body that converts it to like metabolize it. And if you don't have very much of it, you're going to get sick right away. Your hangovers are going to be worse. And some people can metabolize it really well. That doesn't mean it's not affecting your liver more. It doesn't mean it's not doing more damage to you. It just means you're feeling it less. But his podcast on it, he's like a Stanford professor, is so good. And some other stuff he says is like, you should just go listen to his podcast, not mine. Some others. Yeah, I mean, seriously, click off this now. Some other stuff he says that's so interesting is like, have you heard like the whole thing about like, oh, men can have 16 drinks a week and women can have 12? Like there's like ridiculous. That. He's like, no, you can't have, there's none. It's poison. There's no number that is okay.
That's just marketing.
Right. Like big alcohol doesn't want you to.
Oh, it's okay. Just have 16. You're good.
No.
And they know you're not. They know nobody's going to do that, by the way. There's nobody that's like, I followed that. I only had 3.5 ounces per week. I measured it and nobody's doing that.
Yeah. He's like, it actually, cannabis and mushrooms, we'd be way better off, which those are getting legalized. If those were legal, like alcohol is the worst thing that could have and should have ever been legalized. And I just think it's like so interesting that people don't like readily have this information.
Well, I'm a victim. Okay. And I'm here to tell my story to save other
You should sue Big Alcohol.
Big Alcohol. Hey, how do I get in touch with Big Alcohol? Real big alcohol. No, I don't. Yeah. There's a lot I'm thinking about. Alcohol's a hell of a thing.
It's a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
So have you ever had the talk from a girlfriend or a brother or a mom?
No, I don't think anyone cares about me, man. I
would have had I think I've tried to have the talk with you. I'm kidding.
No. It could have been like a hindsight thing. Like, hey guys, I stopped drinking. Oh, I'm so glad you did. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm like, are you really? Like, I don't care. I'm not that kind of person. Oh, you should have told. No, it's just funny to me. I'm like, cause it's almost like if I tried to get an intervention, I couldn't get one, It's like it's like I should have had a self-intervention. I should have like staged it, like passed on. Hey, I heard Ryan would really like an intervention. Pass it on. But
do you think it would work? Because I will tell you, I have people in my life that I've tried to talk to, that I have talked to, and you can't give I don't know that I believe in interventions that much, because I don't think no one's going to stop for you. Like people will only stop for themselves. Like you wouldn't have stopped if someone had sat you down,
No, but I also didn't put myself in a situation where it was like, it's either me or that, you know what I mean? Like you got a family and a career, like it never came to a head where it was like, this is too much. If you don't stop, then we're going to leave you, or we're going to change, or you're going to lose your job. Like that, there was never a threat of anything other than me just not choosing to do it. There was no outside. I mean, there was, I used to joke, cause I was like, I had a great idea. You remember that show Quantum Leap? Mm-hmm. Right. And at the beginning of every episode, he would like leap into the next person. Right. And I had this idea for a show where every day the same character would wake up at the beginning of the show, and he would immediately have that like, oh shit, what did I do last night? Like he would have that sense of regret. And then the rest of the show was about what he did, because he was drunk. Yeah. And so every episode is like, he's like, oh shit, I did that, didn't I? I said that, didn't I? And then it just tells the story of it. It was kind of funny. It's like, not funny. I think it's kind of sad, which is probably why I was like, sad. I don't think I'm going to pursue something like that. Nobody wants that. but that was kind of like the only thing was that sense of like, guess I did that again, didn't I? I guess I said that. I guess I did behave that way. You know,
Yeah.
That was probably the only thing that made me go, yeah, this is probably bad. I can't continue to behave this way because my luck's going to run out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Self-preservation is the reason, I guess.
You tried the thing, I remember, where you like took a pill that.
Oh yeah, that thing
What
doesn't
was the
work.
pill thing?
So there's a drug that I saw a woman. It was kind of like a TED talk. I don't remember her name. She was actually an actress, not a very famous one, but she talked about how she took this pill, and what it does is however it works, it blocks that that part of you
Enzyme
that
or
had
something.
that it blocks that whatever the effective like euphoric sort of thing it's supposed to block. It didn't work for me. Because it's like it didn't make
It
me.
blocks it. You can drink, but you don't feel any effects from it. So you're just
Or
kind of
well,
like just drink and I
you would
don't
have
feel anything.
you would have like a single drink and you might be like, I don't want any more. It doesn't taste that good. I don't feel anything. I'm good. I don't need any more. That was the idea. And I think
Okay.
it does work for some people, but for me, it was like, well, I'm still going to have a drink, even if I don't want it. I was still like, because I did try it and I was like, well, this doesn't stop me. I'm still drinking the same amount. I just like physically, I'm just sort of like, ugh.
You still would like, you would still continue to drink the number of drinks you drank that night. And you just like,
kind of,
really?
Kind of, yeah. Cause I ended up back going like, this doesn't really, it didn't really do. I don't know that I was really ready for that anyways. What I can say is I think the point that I want to make is kind of, you had said, nobody can tell you it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, whenever someone's like, oh, I'm giving up booze for this month, or I'm cutting it back to only weekends. And I'm like, man, you're just setting yourself up. It's like, don't give yourself a time. It has to be like, either you're like, well, I'm just going to make the choice to not drink. Cause to me, it's like, I'm not going to drink for a month. Then you're going to spend the month going like, oh, I can't wait till next month when I can drink.
Right.
Cause I find like, it's like that actually probably makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
For me, what happened was, and I swear to God, it was, I don't know how it happened or why. The first time, it's the first time I stopped drinking, but yeah, it was the first time. This was like 2017, like 2017, let's say. And I remember one day I was just like, oh, I guess I'm done. It just was whatever was part of me that was wanted. It was like, I was like, oh, it's not even a decision. I think I'm just done. And so I remember it was almost that easy at that time. And that lasted for a couple years. And then the pandemic kicked in. And I remember I was at home during one of the lockdowns and I had some beer in my fridge that somebody left. I was like, well, whatever. I'm just going to have that beer. That sounds pretty good to me right now. And then, 6 months later, because things were locked down and then the bars were opening up and like nobody was going out. And I was like, oh, I could go sit in a bar and no one's there. Like, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I guess I'm back to 5 martinis,
Right.
like it just turned into that thing. And then it became like, 4 or 5 double tequilas, and it was just like, and that was it. And then all of a sudden it was like every single day.
Yeah.
Right. And then now, I think I always knew. I was like, this can't last. I don't know why I'm doing it. I think I came up with the excuse of, pandemic and stuff.
Pandemic.
And then back to where I am currently, when I used that water fast sort of break, that 12 days when I went away.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm gonna use this as a reset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
So now I'm back to not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I think you have to kind of be ready.
And
you went to a meeting or two, but just like a few meetings.
I did the first time I stopped. I had a friend and I went a couple times with him because he was doing the same thing as me. He was this English guy and he was a mess, man. And he got off the sauce and he was like a different guy. But yeah, I did. And not saying I shouldn't again or won't ever again, but it just I didn't find myself struggling day to day going like, oh God, I gotta talk to somebody. I want to drink. That never was going on for some reason, but that's why I say it's so important for me. I was lucky enough for the decision to sort of just naturally happen. It was just like it changed in me as opposed to me going like, okay, I got to quit. And tomorrow's day one. day one today to day two, I'll worry about tomorrow. Like I never had that struggle of like, oh my God, this is hard. Like I can't do this, you know? So that it is hard to explain because I don't even know how to explain it, because how do I explain something that just naturally occurs randomly at some particular point in your life where you're like, oh, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm just very fortunate, you know?
Yeah, I think you are.
Hopefully I'm making sense if like I'm rambling.
Now, do you feel like can you still go to a bar without it being awkward? Like, how are social situations for you?
It's awful. That part is awful. That part is awful. Social life, like it kills your social life.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
totally kills your social life.
I agree.
And I don't know what to do with myself most of the time. Like I don't like me going there. I don't care if I'm going there, but I'm just like, all of a sudden it's a little bit noisier. I don't
You
understand
don't
why
want to
I'm there.
stay. You
I
don't want to
don't
stay.
I don't like anybody there. I mean, you know what I mean? I just am like going like, God, I've been around a few people that I'm like, that person is probably exactly what I was like at that time. And I can't stand that person right now. You know, social life definitely takes a hit.
Totally. And people are always like, when they don't really know or whatever, they're like, oh my God, yeah, whatever. Great to meet you or whatever. We should grab a drink. And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we could go and I'll eat some mozzarella sticks, or I love spinach and artichoke dip. But it's like, I try to just say, well, let's have coffee, if I meet like a new girlfriend or whatever. But it's like, it's not that, again, it's not that I can't go to the bar, but like, I'm just waiting to leave. Let's be honest. I am waiting to leave because it's awkward to be there when you're not drinking. Like, it's just not fun. It's really not.
Yeah.
After you eat your appetizer, you just want to leave.
Yeah.
It makes your social life weird. Totally.
Yeah, it definitely, for me, that was the hard part, was like the drinking was great, but I also that's why New York was great. New York is great. Like I don't have a car. I can walk everywhere. I just, on the way home, I stop in a place. There's 70,000 places. You go, well, but you start to know the bartender, and it just becomes like, cause I work alone a lot with my business. There's a lot of times where I'm alone during the day if I'm not on a project or something. And it's nice to have that little.
Well, you're held hostage, so.
I'm held hostage right now, and that message comes later at the end of this video.
Okay, keep going.
No, but it was nice to have that little bit of social time to kind of cap off the day. That was I found that pretty rewarding, and that, again, that's that people can say you can still have a good time. You don't, like, okay, I get it. It's just not something that you can talk about because everybody's a little bit different. It's not that I don't agree with that. It's just that my experience has got to be what my experience has got to be. And I got to find, clearly I'm trying to like, fill in a hole of some kind. And so it's clearly it's not about that. There's something else that I got to be looking at. It's more of an internal thing. It's not about social situations for me. That just happened to be how it happened. It wasn't because of that. Right. I didn't drink so I could enjoy social situations. I drank and it happened to be a social activity. If drinking was not a social activity, I would have been drinking non-socially. Like, so I think I'm still, I would love, maybe there'll be an aha moment or something where I can go, here's what it is. Here's the thing I've been trying to figure out. But I think we're all kind of in it. That's the whole point of the life.
Well,
the whole point of the life.
That's the whole point of the life. Well, just to like make a point with a huge cliche, it's like build a life you don't want a vacation from. And that's kind of like what alcohol is.
I've never heard that, by the way.
You've never heard build a life you don't need a vacation from?
No.
Okay, well, that's kind of like what alcohol is. Like you're just trying to escape, right? With a drink. But if you have a life that you're happy to wake up to and you're passionate about going to your office and you're passionate about being with your dog, which I think you should get a dog. And you have this life that you love, you won't be trying to escape it with alcohol or with TV or with another drug or with whatever it is that's like your distraction or that thing that we all have, the vice, right? So it's just about finding that authentic self that we were talking about last time and putting all those positive things that are actually healthy in your life, right?
I definitely think it's part of it. And as you're, one thing that, going back to that aha thing, trying to identify, like me, you have a dream. You ever had a dream where you're flying,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's probably, I've had a few, and it's like, oh, damn, that's awesome. I love that flying dream. That's great. I could go back to sleep. I'd love to have another flying dream, So take that feeling, right? That feeling of like, I could fly,
Okay.
Now, for me, that kind of feeling was sort of how you would feel when you were drinking. It sort of suddenly everything sort of just flowed a little better and made more sense until you went too far. Now we get that part, but
Right.
you always wanted to get to that small window that lasts for like 10 minutes maybe before
Right.
you went too far, right? Right when
Yes.
that buzz kicks in, you're like, oh, this is great. It's like that.
Alcohol has this feeling for you, like this you feel really great space.
Yeah.
And you
Yep.
keep trying to recreate it over and over again. And that's what you keep
Okay.
trying to get back to. And in your everyday life, just doesn't have that same kind of like sparkle to it. And that's what you keep trying to like recreate over and over again. Correct? Is that right?
Yeah, like a feeling, a euphoric moment that you experienced at some point, or you thought you did, or you felt like you did, trying to find it, trying to reconnect with it,
These things about like you spend this much time with your partner, you spend this much time with work, blah blah blah. You spend like 97% of time with yourself, and like sometimes some people don't do that much work on themselves. Make sure you love yourself, and you do. I think I do. Like some people aren't even comfortable being alone or looking at themselves or being introspective. Like they're always kind of running around to the next thing. And it really is important to have a relationship with yourself.
Yeah. It again, it's something that I wish I said I was, this was part of a plan, or this was like an idea that I had and I'm following through. It's none of that. It's been very like, okay, turn right. Okay, stop. Okay, now go left. You know what I mean? There's this little bit of like nudging that's involved, and so being open to the nudging, there's that sort of like intuition. It's like, all right, now pay attention to this. Okay. Yeah, like there's you're working on yourself the whole time, but the game changes for you, right? The game of life completely changes. So your perspective completely changes. And all of a sudden if you don't see the world the way you did when you were when I maybe in my 20s or 30s or younger, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a totally different experience. So I can't really apply the same rules because I wouldn't do the same things the way I did them back then now. So because the world's like a different place. So I think I'm going like, oh, this is actually pretty enjoyable. I kind of like I kind of like this little like adventure that I'm on.
Do you smoke weed now?
Nah, not really.
Oh, just wondering.
Because if I did that, it'd be like, oh, now I do that every day.
Yeah. You're all gas, no breaks.
Yeah, I don't know. Because why, if it's fun on Monday, why wouldn't it be fun on Tuesday?
How
what
do
are
you
you doing
think
Wednesday? Do that again. That's fun.
So I just want to say this because I think it's interesting. I used to have a therapist. I haven't had a therapist in a long time, but when I was in New York, actually, I had a therapist and I was telling her like yet another story about how, I don't know, I had passed out or I had been hungover all weekend and all this stuff. And I kind of said like, well, obviously I'm not an alcoholic. And she goes, you can have a problem with alcohol without being an alcoholic, Lindsay. And I kind of went, oh, and like it like hit me that like maybe I had a problem with alcohol. So I ask you, do you think you're an alcoholic or do you think you just had a problem with alcohol?
Well, I think I don't know if I agree with that. I
Oh,
definitely no, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah.
you're an alcoholic. Okay.
Oh, of course I am.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, who else drinks like 4, 5, 6 double tequilas a day and just is like, oh, that's a regular day? Like that's not like what is that if it's not
Well, I didn't
alcohol?
want to tell you are an alcoholic. I
Oh, I
had to
don't
ask.
care.
I just
I don't
wanted to
care.
ask.
I mean,
Why did you say you
everybody's
don't
some
agree with
kind of
my
holic.
Why didn't No, I agree. Why did you say you don't agree with my therapist?
I mean,
She said you
what's
can have a problem with alcohol without being an alcoholic, which I
right?
thought was such an interesting thing to say.
Well, what's the difference if a problem is a problem, right? I
Right.
mean, if it's a problem, whether it's considered alcoholism or not, it's
Mhm.
still it's kind of irrelevant. It's like
It's like you have a problem. It's
either
like you either have a problem or you
stop or
don't.
don't stop, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think if you cannot stop or if you don't want to change, it's kind of like you were talking about the hangovers, right? Like certain people can process it slightly different. Well, what if that's similar to like alcoholism, right? Some people might be alcoholics and they have to have like they can only do 2 a day just because they physically can't do more, but they're still like have to have their two. I
Right.
don't know. I don't know. I just we create all these little nuanced details of a problem. It's like, well, don't if you can't if you're worried about it, then don't do it. Like,
Right.
not
Well,
saying that's that easy, but it's like it regardless of what it is, like it's either you do it or you don't do it, right?
yeah. Well, what I took from her is, like, I think I had always taken comfort and, like, well, I'm not an alcoholic. Like, because I know an alcoholic, like, drinks every day, and I know an alcoholic, if they drink 1 drink, drinks 9. And I was like, I, wouldn't drink that many or whatever. And so the fact that she said to me, like, "You can have a problem with alcohol without technically being an alcoholic," it, like, made me go, maybe I shouldn't drink because I have a problem with alcohol. Just because I'm not technically the big word, like, I still need to take a step back, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's
Like, you
just
don't have to check every mark on the quiz, on the online quiz, "Am I an alcoholic?" Like, you can just check 2 and still need to change your life, you know? Or change your relationship with alcohol.
yeah, and I think every individual knows that for themselves. I don't think they need
Mhm,
anyone to tell them that, you know?
mhm.
I think anything where you're hesitant to do it because you're like, is this too much? Am I abusing this privilege or this situation or this thing? Like it's I, I think we're really good at playing dumb. Human beings
Mhm.
are really good at playing dumb. It's like, no, I know exactly like whether or not I admit it or not, or I dance around it, or I'm embarrassed by it, or I'm too, prideful, like whatever. Like we all know, everybody knows all the little details about all their little feelings about every little thing they do.
Mhm.
There's no like, oh, I didn't. No, don't play dumb. You know.
I always say that, like, what we both have been talking about how, like, we're on these, like, self journeys the last few years, and I think the biggest thing I learned is, like, taking accountability for yourself, stopping not lying to yourself is one of the biggest things you can do to grow. Like, just stop lying to yourself, because most people lie to themselves so much about what they're doing, what their behavior is. Like, most people are full of shit to themselves.
Yeah. I mean, we live in a world right now where everybody's encouraged to find all the reasons why they're wronged.
Mm. Oh,
We're encouraged to find
oh,
here's
yeah,
all the things here's why I can't do things because of this and
because
that.
of
I got ADHD.
this.
I can't function.
But I
I'm
think you might
handicapped.
I think you might have ADHD though.
Yeah, great. I love it. Give me
I'm
more.
kidding, I'm kidding.
No, so that's kind of I think that's where some of my hesitation comes from because we live in a world now where we're constantly looking for identifying what problem we have, problems. What problems do I have? What do I embody? What's wrong with me physically? What's wrong with me mentally? Oh, I should take a pill because I feel a certain way. Like we live in a world where we're like outwardly looking for solutions to problems that may or may not exist, right? But we always rely on other people to tell us when that problem becomes a big problem. Like, oh, I guess I should probably take your advice and do this thing, right? Um, I find that so weird. I find that so weird. That makes me
Yeah,
want to drink. Just that realization makes me want to drink because I don't understand. I just don't understand how we became so easily manipulated. Maybe we
yes,
always were. Maybe we always were. I,
yeah,
but my God, we're so easily manipulated.
yes. I agree with you with all of
That's why
that.
I drank because I was frustrated by that.
Yeah, but I don't think saying, like, "I drank too much," like, saying like I did this thing and then I solved the problem, like I think is not the same thing. You don't think that, do you? Because I think you took control of your life. Like you were like, I had a problem, I solved it, I nipped it in the bud. Like that's not the same as being like a victim about it.
Well, no, it's like a lifelong process, I think, too. But I think we focus too much on the problem and not, and I don't want to say solution. I'm not talking about the solution, but we focus too much on the problem and not enough on exploring, not asking why do I drink? No. I'm saying
Oh yeah.
like we got to spend more time like with our language, like stop with the limitations, stop with the like I can't do because this doesn't work because I'm not strong enough
Right.
for this. Like that's the thing. Like, don't even talk about that. Like, talk about where do you want to be? Envision yourself in a situation, and how does it feel to be there in the perfect scenario of your life or whatever it is. Start with that.
Yes.
Like, focus on that. Like, so it's almost like the more you've like a hypochondriac, right? Always talking about all the possible ways that they're ill and sick, and then what happens? They become sick,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same with even talking about like, let's talk all about the problems and why this, like, well, I'd like to talk about how I'd like to feel and how to get there and what that world looks like, even if it doesn't exist, right? Like,
Well, do you want to tell me how you'd like to feel and how to get there?
yeah, I'd like to feel, I'd like, I'd like to feel like I'm making the choices moment to moment that do fulfill me and excite me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that, not talking about being irresponsible with things you got to do in life and accountability. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about we live in a world where we have to do certain things to keep up, to survive, to fit in, all that stuff, right? You gotta have money to pay for things, right? So we're just constantly surrounded by fear. I want to exist in a place where I'm not fearful. I want to exist in a place where I'm not anxious because I have to do something I don't want to do in order to get to the next day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like people are like, well, that's just not the world we live in. And I'm like, we don't even bother to talk about it. We don't even bother to explore it, right? Like, how do we take care of each other in that? I know I'm going way off topic again, but
It does make sense. But I
yeah,
appreciate you talking to me about addiction and alcoholism because I think it's helpful.
it's weird. It's weird because it's not something I ever imagined I'd be talking about or dealing with. It's not like you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone else close to me that can relate. That's the weird part too. Family, friends. It's like, I'm like, where's my other alcoholic friends?
Where's your British alcoholic friend that?
No,
that
he lives with his family. He has chickens and stuff now. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I just, like I said, the only thing that the one thing that matters if anyone hears it is don't get caught up in time. Don't worry about like I'm just gonna stop for a week. Like that's gonna make it really hard for you. Just if you can't stop, then don't stop. Like let it process. Understand that the thought of stopping is the beginning of something. And don't put pressure on yourself. Like
I
let
go ahead.
go what?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it sounds really, what I'm saying it sounds like, what do you mean don't stop? I'm saying don't put more pressure on you to stop doing something if you're not ready to stop, because it's just going to make you more miserable and everything more difficult. Like if that thought starts to come in your mind and you start to realize you have a problem and you're like, man, how do I stop? What if I want to stop? When should I stop? Then understand that that's already sort of happening. The process has already begun, and you have to be a little bit patient sometimes, I think. Because I've just seen it when you put limitations on things. You're like, I have to stop, and I'm not drinking for the whole month. That sounds awful. Because if you just let it naturally start to happen and you're serious about it, I think one day, hopefully, you'll have that same experience where you're like, oh, this is the time. This is the time. I'm just done. This is natural. This is interesting. I didn't expect this. That's kind of what an alternative like thought about that.
Mm-hmm. Ironically, I went to a fundraiser last night for a place called First Call, which is dedicated to addiction and alcoholism. And the guy that was speaking, they always have a guest speaker. This guy's name was John Kabukaty, and he's an artist. But he was he said this phrase slowbriety that I thought was really interesting. And he was saying, like, it took him a long time to kind of like get there, and all the mechanisms that he tried. Like, he had a 12-step program, then he joined a men's group, then he did EMDR. Like, don't
What's
think you have to do it.
EMDR?
It's kind of like, I don't know, like
Shock
a brain
therapy.
thing. Not, I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird. But like, you don't have to do everything all at once. Like, it's kind of a process, like you were saying. But you'll get there, and like just make the decision, and then like, baby steps, one day at a time. Right. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I think you can still be drinking and still be an explorer in yourself and start asking these questions. Like, you don't have to do, it's not like I'm encouraging. Obviously, it sounds weird to say, because no one else would. I don't think anybody licensed would say something like that. But like, just, there is a process. I found there's something naturally occurs if you just respect that.
Change your mind first, then change your behavior.
I think so. And honestly, if it creeps in there, it'll eventually, it's gonna affect you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there are probably a lot of people that don't even think about it. It's not, and I'm not talking about like people are hungover, like, I'm never drinking again. That doesn't mean anything. You just feel like shit. You got to be you got to be sober and happy on a sunny afternoon and be sitting on a bench, not even drinking, and go, man, at some point I'd like to feel like this all the time.
Let's keep this going.
Yeah. I think, but yeah.
So when are you going to get out of this hostage situation?
As soon as they pay the ransom.
Yeah.
It's Friday too. I'm losing confidence. So weekends come. If they don't get that money, I got to wait till Monday. The banks aren't open.
You leave for Peru tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. As long as the rain doesn't stop me.
Yeah.
And well, I can tell you a quick funny drunk story.
Okay. So do you have any good, here, I'll tell you something really quick, because I don't want to waste your time. I know you're going to Peru. And so I passed out. Do you remember when I passed out in the cab in Chicago? Do you remember when I passed out in the cab in New York?
In a cab?
I passed out in a cab in New York.
Oh, from being drunk?
That was a little bit of my rock bottom. And I woke up, and I didn't even really wake up. The guy was flashing a flashlight. The cab driver was flashing a flashlight in my eye to try to wake me up. And
I don't know if you told me that.
I was probably embarrassed, and I didn't even really remember it. And the next morning, I woke up and I was fully clothed in my bed. So a few days go by, and I'm kind of just like, totally just, trying to get over like the embarrassment and everything. And I walked down and there's like my front stoop down there, and there was this girl smoking on the front stoop, and she was my neighbor. Yeah. And she's like, "Are you doing okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And she goes, "You were really out of it the other night. You don't remember, do you?" And I'm like, "No." And she goes, "You were passed out in the cab, and the cab driver was trying to wake you up, and I was down here smoking. And so I helped the cab driver carry you to your apartment." Because I think what I had done, because I kind of pieced it together, when you get in a cab in New York, you're just like 46th and Vernon. You don't say your actual, you just kind of do that. So he got to the cross streets and was like, "What do I do with this girl?" And then she saw and was like, "Oh, I know where she goes. I know where she belongs."
Oh, wow.
And I was so embarrassed, and I was so scared. I scared myself. Like, oh my God. Anyway, that's my drunk story.
Well, yeah, I had a thing happen over a year ago where I was leaving a place. I was living downtown, and I was crossing the West Side Highway, kind of by World Trade, because I live right over there. Mm-hmm. And it was like March or April or something, so it wasn't that cold. But I remember I walked out of the place, and I crossed over West Side Highway, and the next thing I know, I'm kind of coming back into consciousness, and I'm on the ground, and I stand up, and I'm very confused, and I keep walking back to my building. I'm only like a block away, and I go in there, and the elevator's surrounded by mirrors, and I get in there, and my side of my head just gushing blood.
Ryan.
Yeah, so like I think what happened is I tripped. I think because I had my hands in my pockets and I was like running. This is what I think happened. I don't, because everyone's like, "Oh, someone hit you," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't think so because nobody took anything or did anything. I don't." But I think what happened, I tripped, and because my hands were in my pocket, I just went down on my like head and hit my ear on the ground and knocked myself out. I mean, I was drunk. It was because I was drunk.
Right.
And then I got in the elevator and I was like bleeding. I'm like, what the? And in my head, I'm like, all right, just wash it off and go to bed. You're fine. And so I was in complete denial, and I had a concussion, and like I started texting my friend. I was like, look at what happened to me. And then he ended up forcibly coming over and taking me to the hospital because he's like, you gotta, and thank God he did, because my ear would have been like complete. It was like split in half. And
You would have had a Holyfield situation.
Oh, I would have looked like some kind of like,
Evander
yeah,
Holyfield.
world champion wrestler or something. But like, yeah. And that to me, I was like, that's not good, man. Like I got knocked out.
And for people that don't know, West Side Highway is a crazy highway to run across, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I went in the crosswalk. It wasn't.
Oh, well, still,
I wasn't like running around like a crazy person.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy highway.
But I don't know what happened.
Scary.
To this day, I don't know what happened, how it happened, other than I was drunk and something happened.
And so, wait, what happened at the hospital?
Well, they had to bring in a guy to sew up my ear and like do all this stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
But my friend, thank God, my friend was like, no, I'm coming. I got it. You got, because I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. You know, he's like, no. It would have been such a mess if I didn't.
Oh, such a
mess. I got
mess.
photos of it. I'll send you a photo.
Okay. I don't know that you need to do that, but oh my God, that's so scary.
Right?
I mean, that's like go ahead.
No, I said, right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like my cab story. That's what I think happened. But like, I so don't remember. I remember being there. I remember like a light. I know that happened with the girl a few days later, but like, I just don't even know what happened. And it was so scary to me that just like, I didn't know how that story ended, you know? And yeah, it was scary. And I had texted my friend and was like, hey, what happened last night? She's like, nothing. I mean, we waved for a cab and you got in the cab. I mean, you were drunk, but like, she didn't think I was going to pass out, obviously. So I don't know.
Well, falling asleep in a cab late at night after drinking is not hard to do.
No, it's standard. But it's scary as like, I think it's scary as like a woman in New York. You're kind of like, where could have ended up? Anyway, I could have ended up on the side of the West Side Highway.
Yeah, I don't.
With my ear taken off.
And I would record me and friends, but we'd always be drunk. And I would just record for like a half hour. Then I would go edit it and change it all around, like, you know, the order of things so I could make it however I wanted to. But I was like, this is bad look, man. Every single one I'm completely hammered in. I'm like, I can't do this. This is a bad idea.
It was funny. Wait, I have one more thing I'm going to tell you and then we can wrap it up. Okay. This is not my story, but it's a really funny story about my friend. We'll call her Shwami. And that's not her name. She got really drunk one night in Westport, which is like, you know, drinking area. I think we've been there. And she parked her car. She drove there and then she realized she needed to Uber home. So she Ubers home. And the next day she was going to drive home. It's even worse. Sorry. She parks there and then she comes out and she's like, somebody stole my car. Oh my God. So she Ubers home and the next day she comes back to where she thinks she parked her car. And she's like, oh, my car's gone. It's stolen. Oh my God. And she calls the cops, like puts a report in, blah, 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 blah. And then like 3 days later, the cops call and they're like, your car was parked like one street over. And she basically just didn't know where she parked her car.
No wonder cops don't want to help us. Like, God, I can't do
yeah. And she was like, oh, I mean, someone couldn't have stole it and moved it one street. And they're like, no, we don't think so. We think you probably just don't know where you parked your car. And she was like, okay. I'm like, God, I would
Wow.
totally do something like that. I would have totally done that.
Oh, I'm sure I would have too.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, I wanted to make fun of her, but I couldn't.
But that's the beauty of living in New York, because you don't have a car. That's
I
probably why. Because I remember going back to Colorado or something out, like Christmas vacation, and like the idea of like I can't go anywhere and drive and drink. I'm not like, even though I drank every day, I was like, I'm not driving.
No.
So I'm not going out. I'll stay home and drink.
No, I would never drink and drive because I can't drive and I can't drink. So I can't put those two things together. You got a lot of problems,
don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the button. You got a lot of problems.
You got a lot. Can we take that again?
Lindsay, you got a lot of problems.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Have fun in Peru.